This episode is brought to you by HASA. Liquid is clearly better. Liquid chlorine is the highest purity, works immediately, has no added cyanuric acid or calcium, and it will leave your pool safe, clean, and clear. And by the bottom feeder professional grade battery powered vacuum system. It sucks to clean pools, so cleaning pools sucks less. Get $100 off with code DVB100.
This episode is brought to you by Skimmer, the #1 pool service software in North America. With Skimmer, you can streamline your schedule, grow your revenue, and keep your customers coming back with 5-star service. Whether you're a one-person operation or an established team, Skimmer is your partner in success. Visit getskimmer.com/poolguy to try Skimmer for free for 30 days.
The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show. The Pool Guy Podcast Show.
Hi, welcome to the Pool Guy Podcast Show. In this third part of the series with Arko, it's kind of an eye-opening podcast where we talk about the sad incident where a pool pro lost his life mixing chemicals in the skimmer. We'll talk about, of course, safety and why mixing chemicals is something that you shouldn't do, and it's something that is very sobering in the industry, and I think you're going to get a lot out of this particular podcast. Are you a pool service pro looking to take your business to the next level? Join the Pool Guy Coaching Program. Get expert advice, business tips, exclusive content, and get direct support. From me, I'm a 35-year veteran in the industry. Whether you're starting out or scaling up, I've got the tools to help you succeed. Learn more at swimmingpoollearning.com. Let's talk a little bit about chemical mixing. There was an incident, we'll talk about that too. I've had members of my group do this, and they report to me like, there was a tablet in the skimmer I didn't know, and I put Cal Hypo in there, and the skimmer lid blew off. That's like a minor thing that could happen. And other people put Cal Hypo tablets in a trichlor feeder, and it blows up on them.
Yep.
But that's pretty minor compared to what happened, earlier in the month.
Yes. I'm continuing to sort of pursue and try and get more and more information on this, what happened. But what I know so far is that apparently there was a pool service tech and I guess somewhat of a veteran of a pool service tech, a guy that's been doing it for a while, who had two different products. He had an algae treatment product that was a dry granular product, and he had some dichlor. Now, this tech apparently had I don't know if it was a proactive method or if he had some pools that had a little bit of algae in them or whatever, but he had a practice where he added some of a granular algae product. Some believe that initially he was using sodium bromide possibly, and then adding chlorine to the sodium bromide. And when he would do this, he would do it in the skimmer. So he would maybe pour his algae treatment product, which was believed to be sodium bromide, possibly, and then he would put a dichlor product on top of that, and he would do this through the skimmer. And that this had been a common practice that he'd been doing for a long time and never had a problem with it. On this particular fateful day, he added a granular algae product. And then added this dichlor immediately after into the skimmer of this pool, and it caused an explosion. The explosion was fatal to this tech. He died from the explosion. Apparently, I've heard there was a dog as well, and nearby, and the dog actually died also. There was a lot that went out on social media in regards to this, and then there was some information that began to go out on the product he was using. I'm not going to get into that specifically brand-wise or where that came from. There's information out on that. There was actually a label of the product which he obtained, which was the algae granular product. And a lot of folks, in fact, I just recently listened to a podcast where the person in the podcast was saying that what happened was he put sodium bromide in with Cal Hypo. I pretty much believe that is absolutely not what happened, based on what I'm seeing and what's getting reported to me. What I'm seeing is that he used a newer product that he got at a distributor's. It could be perhaps he thought it was the same as if he had been using sodium bromide in the past, whatever he'd been doing. Perhaps he thought this product was a sodium bromide product. I do not know, but it appears that the product he used was what we call an ammonium salt or a diammonium salt product, basically ammonia, granular ammonia in a salt form, which is used in these swamp to clear kind of things where if you have a very green pool, you add an ammonium salt product first, and then you wait and you add chlorine to the pool. And then there's a reaction that takes place, and you can change a pool from, an algae pool to a clear pool, like in a day or 24 hours. That's the basic product that it appears he was using. And so the problem is you've got ammonia, an ammonia product, and you're mixing it with chlorine. Well, that's very volatile. Ammonia and chlorine do not mix. I don't know how many people know, but ammonia contains nitrogen. And nitrogen is, in its elemental form, it's very explosive. And when you mix, anybody ever hear of nitroglycerin? Nitrogen mixed with the glycerin is very explosive. And when you take an inorganic, and you combine it with an organic or so forth, or even a chemical, you're going to get that explosion. That's what I believe happened. I believe that perhaps he didn't understand. And so I looked a little further at the product, and I did a label search on that product, which, again, I'm just going to say it was an ammonium salt product, just to understand that. And on the label of the product, it states there is a warning on the label of this diammonium salt product that states, number one, do not mix it with chlorine. Number two, do not add this into the skimmer. So I don't know for sure if the product that this person received, if he looked at the label, if he most likely didn't. And I think that might be a concern. And the concern being, anytime we get something new, and I teach this, David, and I teach safety, and I try and push this to the guys and gals in my chemical classes. And I'm telling them two things. And the two things I tell them is you need to understand you have chemicals. You have chemicals in the back of your truck, chemicals that you're handling, chemicals you're taking to a pool. And you need to understand that these chemicals, number one, they're dangerous. Number two, they're reactive. You inadvertently mix these things together, or you purposely mix these things together for whatever reason, you're going to have a very dangerous reaction. The big thing that I always state is, look, if you get anything new, anytime you get a new chemical that's not what you are usually used to getting, if you go to a distributor and you say, hey, I want sodium bromide, or I want trichlorochlorine tablets, whatever it is, and if they bring you something and it's in a different package than what you're accustomed to getting, so, if you go and you're getting your tablets every week and they're coming in a yellow and red bucket, and hey, those are trichlor tablets, you understand the label, and you go get your trichlor tablets and the guy brings you a bucket and it's white and blue. And you're like, okay, that's not red, yellow, and red. That's a different container. Well, don't assume it's the same thing. Look at the label, read the label. And the first thing you want to read is the warnings, and understand the warnings. We really have to do that.
Yeah. And you dated yourself there, Terry, by saying the trichlor bucket was yellow and red, the sun tablets. If you did full service back in the 90s, everyone knows those yellow and red buckets.
Yes.
The red lids. I think I knew right away what happened as well when I heard the story, because I've used that product before, so I know exactly what the reaction would have been. And I think a basic rule of thumb is don't mix chemicals. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's kind of a rule that should be, just on the basic level, if you use trichlor tablets, you already know that if water gets in that bucket, it's going to react with the trichlor in that bucket there's chemicals mixing in there and
Yes.
get lung damage from just opening the lid of that. So that's a basic example of mixing chemicals, because the water is like the reactor. So I think basic 101 pool services, and I get asked this all the time by my group members, hey, I just added cal hypo to the pool. Can I put muriatic acid in there right after? And you've got 20,000 gallons of water. That's a fairly safe mixture. But if you're mixing in a bucket or into the skimmer, everything is kind of micro at that point.
Yeah, I always state the biggest danger is physically. You don't want to ever physically mix two things together. So in a bucket, like you don't want to put one thing in and then another thing in on top of that bucket. You want to also, and this is why I have the opinion. I don't like chemicals in a skimmer. I just don't. I don't like tablets in a skimmer. I don't like pouring chemical in a skimmer, especially with the skimmer on. You've got undiluted straight chemical that's going to get sucked in through your system immediately, and that's not good for your equipment. Doing that, you can have chlorine's corrosive. So if you're pouring solid chlorine right through the skimmer or even liquid, and it doesn't have time to get diluted, that's a problem. And the other thing is, what do skimmers do? Skimmers collect organic waste, right? They pick up leaves, pine needles, all this stuff, and it's in the basket. And you've got a chlorine tablet in there with this organic material, and it's all very reactive. And then what do you got to do? You got to clean that basket out. Okay, well, when you clean the basket out and there's still some tablet material in there, what are you going to do about that? Well, now you're going to put that in somebody's trash can? Like it just doesn't make sense. So I'm a big proponent, no chemicals in the skimmer. And as you said, there's the dilution. We need the dilution of the 20,000 gallons of the pool water, whatever it is. If you're adding any, if you're using liquid chlorine or trichlor, something as your primary sanitizer, and you're going to shock with cal hypo, yeah, that's fine in a pool with 20,000 gallons. However, again, you're not going to pour those right on top of each other. You don't do that. You go to different ends of the pool. Put stuff in front of the return line, rather than in front of the skimmer. That's another thing. Don't pour chemicals right in front of your skimmer either.
Yeah, I just remember this incident. It was when my son was younger, and they were doing this demonstration with a soda bottle, a 2-liter bottle of soda with baking soda and vinegar, and they shook it up, and then they were going to launch it, right? And parents are standing around watching. Well, they did launch it, but it went right towards the crowd, and everyone scattered and ran. And that kind of reminds me of, this kind of thing, mixing two chemicals together in a small container or a small area. It's just going to be trouble. It's just, you're asking for trouble.
Yeah. I think I've seen the one where they take those, what are they, those mentho mints, the METHOS, like they're like mints or something. And you can buy them at the store, and you take a bunch of those and you can just open up a soda bottle and put them in the soda, and it'll blow up.
Well, like our generation was pretty dangerous. We get those candies that kind of pop in your mouth, and you drink some soda. Yeah. Remember, your mouth just starts tingling.
Yeah.
That should be a lesson for everyone, that mixing chemicals at any level is just pure. You're just taking a chance,
I think I'm going to reiterate and maybe sound like a broken record, and I'm sorry, but never mixing two things together. My opinion, don't put stuff in the skimmer. And the other thing is, know your labels. Know your labels. Know your SDS sheets. I would say to anybody who's got a crew, like if you're a company where you have folks working with you and under you and service techs, you should be having regular safety meetings. And in those safety meetings, I'm going to say, if you're not doing it, you should be going through the labels of every product that your team is going out and putting into a pool, making sure they understand what's on that label. And the most important thing to understand on that label is the warnings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's so true. I think you've got it. So, what would be a big takeaway for the pool pro here? Someone lost their life doing this, and we're talking about reading labels and not mixing chemicals. I mean, it's an eye opener in a bad way, of course, that this happened. Is the industry doing enough for the pool? I mean, we have so much education now that
Yeah, I mean, I just finished doing a whole round of, I serve on the Recreational Water and Air Quality Committee for PHTA.
Mhm.
And we just finished doing a presentation on chemical safety. We did a tour of the pool and spa shows. So we did this class in Atlantic City. We did it at the regional shows. We did it at the Western Pool and Spa Show. We stated pointedly about not mixing chemicals, reading the labels, understanding the labels. And, I think the biggest thing, and I would say my takeaway here, David, because I was a pool pro, and I understand what happens when, your day gets busy. Something goes wrong at somebody's pool, and then you've got to go there and you've got to fix something, and you're trying to get to, 10 pools in a day or 20, whatever it is. You're in a hurry, and you got to get in, you got to get out, you got to get things done, and you got to get moving. And that's a big part of what we do. And I think, I know for myself, I'll speak for myself, and thank God, fortunately, nothing ever happened to me. But you have a tendency, and I think it's human behavior. We have this tendency to kind of get nonchalant about things. If that's a fancy word, that kind of means we kind of go about our business and we start not thinking. We start kind of, whatever, boom, got to get it done. And I think that's the biggest concern right there is if you can check yourself, don't get nonchalant about your chemicals, and have respect. Understand, you've got to respect what you're working with and respect the fact that those chemicals could, I'm sorry to say it, and if it sounds bad, but those chemicals can kill you. And the proof is they killed somebody in our community. He's gone now because of an improper mixture.
And you can expand this slightly by saying, it's dangerous at equipment pads as well. I mean, everyone's seen that little picture on the filter of, this could cause death. And there's a guy with the lid hitting him in the face, a small little stick figure. It's an industry that I think what you said about rushing, not being careful, and I've had problems with cleaning filters. I was in a rush and not taking precautions and put myself in a dangerous situation, and thank God nothing happened. But I think all of us have done this. I mean, I've also turned on a pool pump that wasn't grounded and been shocked pretty good by the 220 volts. These things happen out there. And so I think, and that's because there was no shield on the timer, automatic timer, and I'm just in a rush and I'm touching stuff quickly.
It's happened to me.
Those shields are actually pretty important. I always order them for my customers and put them on there because I've been shocked pretty badly, and it stays with you for the whole day. Your arm's numb, you're just shaking it off. It's a dangerous industry in some ways, but it's only dangerous, I think, if you're not. This is kind of like one of those circular logical things. If you're not careful, it's a dangerous industry, if that makes sense.
And, I think that's part of being a professional, right? I mean, this is an industry where we need to be professionals. And part of being a professional is you move a little slower, you move a little more purposely, and you're prepared for anything that might happen because you've learned, or you've studied, or you paid your dues, I guess, in a sense. You got shocked, right? So you learned. So now you put those covers on. But you also, I would say, if you approached an automatic timer, again, that didn't have one of those covers, you're going to approach it much more slower, much more purposely, and you're not going to allow yourself to get shocked again. I think we need to become professionals in everything we do, how we handle everything, and it's just a matter of kind of, I think, maybe slowing down a little bit with what we're doing, being more purposeful, and thinking more. Because when things happen, it's because we're in a hurry. We're reacting rather than thinking through what we're doing.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for taking the time, Matt. I know you're a super
Yep.
busy person and you have a seminar
No, I'm
coming
glad
up.
to do this, and
Yeah.
hope we can kind of do this from time to time.
Yeah, definitely. So thank you for your time today, Terry.
You bet, Dave. Thank you.
If you're looking for part 1 and 2 of this series, I'll have the links in the description for you. And if you're looking for other podcasts, you can find those on my website, swimmingpoollearning.com. If you click on the podcast icon, there'll be a drop-down menu of over 1,600 podcasts for you there. And if you're interested in the coaching program that I offer, you can learn more at poolguycoaching.com. Thanks for listening to this podcast. Have a great rest of your week. God bless. This episode is brought to you by HASA, providing products that deliver clean, healthy water for every aspect of everyday life. The bottom feeder battery-powered vacuum system, portable, powerful, and only weighs 12 pounds. And Skimmer. Get Skimmer, America's #1 pool service software. Podcast listeners can try Skimmer for free at getskimmer.com/poolguy.